RecCon 2023 is here, a new Rec Room original was announced, they're removing ink from Rec Room, they're adding custom avatar items to Rec Room is taking a bunch of creators' money. Guys, there is so much to talk about. Hello everybody, I'm BillehBawb from BVR, and welcome to the return of Rec Room Roundup, where we go over the latest in Rec Room news and updates. There is a ton of crazy new stuff we're going to be talking about, but first, real quick, let's just go over this latest update. First up is some small circuit stuff, like they added this throw handle that you can use to detect when a player throws it, I guess. Ooh. They also added some new useful circuits events for when players pick up or drop objects. They also added state machines to Circuits V2, which is something from Circuits V1 that people have been wanting for a while now. I'm not going to go too deep into it here, but I'll leave a link to a blog post that Rec Room wrote about state machines in the description if you want to read more about it. There's also now a new room permission level, the contributor, between moderator and co-owner. This is essentially just the moderator room permission, except you can also give them an earnings cut from the room. So like if someone does some work on your room and you want to give them a cut of the earnings from it, but you also don't want them to have co-owner permissions, like being able to clone the room and stuff like that, you can just give them contributor. For that purpose, this is a pretty useful new permission level, but I also don't get why we still can't just set our own custom permission levels. And the biggest and final thing in this update that wasn't even mentioned in the patch notes for some reason is the progression system. You know how in the new Rec Room Original Make It to Midnight, they have that whole new watch menu that has like your level up bar and all the rewards and perks you've earned so far? Well, that same progression system has now rolled out to all creators, so now anyone can make a system like this that grants rewards when you reach certain levels and awards XP and all that. The whole thing is super flexible and customizable, and it's also built on this new thing called data tables that are going to be super useful for circuits in the future. This has got to be one of the best creation tools they've added in a while, so good stuff. Again, I have no idea why it wasn't even mentioned in the patch notes. Alright, with that update out of the way, let's talk about the big boy, RecCon 2023. Quick note that I'm recording this right when RecCon is starting, but it probably won't be uploaded until right when RecCon is ending. So if I say anything about RecCon in the future tense, but it's already happened by the time you're seeing this, just pretend I said it in the past tense. Let's start by doing a rundown of all the usual stuff. As always, there's a new RecCon hoodie that you get for free by going to the event, and this year's is blue. They've also got all the artists and portfolio and clubs halls and stuff like that, with all the booths that you can walk through like always. It's always cool to just walk through some of these and see what the community's been up to. I've had a ton of fun just walking around Rec Room and meeting people like always, you know, meeting some fans, using code BVRR, just like this, just like you should right here, code BVRR in the Rec Room shop. The main cool new thing this year is that you can get a free RecCon Maker Pen skin by finding the hidden 100 tiny Maker Pens around the room. Yes, that is 100 tiny Maker Pens that you have to find throughout every lobby, alley, and booth or whatever. Luckily, there's a board in the lobby that tracks your progress for each subroom, but oh my gosh, look at how many subrooms you have to search through for these friggin' things. Honestly though, I don't entirely hate this. Maker Pen skins have always been kinda hard to get, so at least it's following with the theme. I do hate to say though that is kind of ruined by the fact that you can also just straight up buy the skin for like 7,000 tokens and skip the hunt, so there's that. Speaking of buying things, just like every other year, there is a merch booth at RecCon that has some limited time and exclusive items. This year, the limited time items are the Maker Pen skin, a recolored RecCon bubbly, and the Forbidden One shirt from 2 years ago, so not the greatest lineup. There's some other cool items here though, most of them are new, and one of them is the Ghost Bow, which was a skin given out for a weekly in 2017. This is widely considered to be one of the rarest skins in the game because it has never been re-released since 2017. So in classic Rec Room fashion, they took an old exclusive item and are reselling it for a whole bunch of money. This time it is 25,000 tokens. Oh my gosh. That officially makes this skin the most expensive individual item ever sold in Rec Room. I could talk about this for a while, but the ethics of taking old items and reselling them for a bunch of tokens now is gonna have to be a conversation for another day, because we gotta talk about the Gribbly Keynote Speech. This is the panel every year at RecCon where Gribbly talks about the future of Rec Room and announces a whole bunch of cool stuff like the stuff I talked about at the start of the video. First, they talked about some collaborations they're doing in the future, including with the band AJR, and they're also doing another collaboration with Haunt Society. He also touched on full body avatars and basically just said that they're still working on them, but they're not ready yet, and they'll probably be ready soon. I don't know. And then Gribbly went off the stage, and on came Crash Faster, the head of Rec Room's UGC tools, who I've got to say has a bit of an ironic username. Okay guys, so the joke is this game crashes all the time. Anyways, he's the one who announced some real big boy stuff, including Rooms 2.0. This is just an umbrella term for a whole bunch of new game-changing creation features they've been working on for a while now. So first off, they're straight up removing ink limits. You might have seen they've been doing some tests recently with Limits V2 that some people can enable to get like 1,000 times ink. Well, I guess that test was successful because with Rooms V2, ink is going to be gone completely. Also with Rooms V2 is going to be the release of Hierarchical Building. This is another alpha test that Rec Room's been doing over the past few months, and and it's really hard to explain what it is, but I'll try. Basically, right now, if you want two objects to be connected, you have to use a clamp like this so that they move together. But with hierarchical building, you're basically going to just be able to say, hey, I want this cube to be a parent of this cube, so you don't have to use clamps anymore. And it won't just be objects either. You'll also now be able to parent stuff like components. Hopefully that kind of made sense. If you still don't get it, just know, it's going to be useful and cool and all that. Another thing they mentioned with Rooms 2.0 is that they're going to be consolidating keys, consumables, and currencies into a room inventory or something. And then players will be able to buy things for their room inventory from like offers or something. Honestly, from the description they gave, I'm still not entirely sure what the purpose of this system is or how it differs from our current system, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So that's all we know about Rooms 2.0 right now. It's basically just a lot of features to say that making rooms is gonna be easier now. So after that, they announced something pretty huge, that UGC avatar items are coming to the game. If you don't know what that means, basically like think of Roblox. You know how anyone can model and upload their own avatar items that anyone can then buy? They didn't give us too much actual information about it, but basically that Roblox system is gonna be coming to Rec Room. So no more dealing with the restrictions of custom shirts. Soon we're gonna be able to make custom like anything. And I may have predicted this like over a year ago or something. It's not like I always predict things before they happen. It's not like this is the greatest show in all of Rec Room. It's not like you should subscribe right now because I'm always correct about everything I say or anything like that. Is that too much? They also announced that players are going to be able to pay to have their rooms advertised, probably somewhere in like the Rec Room Watch UI. We don't have too much information on this yet, but I assume it's going to be pretty similar to the way that Roblox allows users to pay to advertise their games on the Roblox website. And this is certainly something that will change the way Rec Room games are promoted forever. We've got one final big announcement that they did about creation stuff, and honestly, this one is the most important. It's going to take some explaining, just like the others, but just stick with me here, okay? This is big. So for about 2 years now, the cash out rate from Rec Room tokens to dollars was 250,000 tokens for $100. Considering that 250,000 tokens of sales before Rec Room took their 30% cut was like 350,000, and that buying 350,000 tokens costs like $500, you can see how someone spending $500 worth of tokens and the creator only getting $100 of those tokens is a pretty awful rate for the creator. Lucky for creators, also for the past 2 years, Rec Room has had the early creator matching bonus, which essentially just states that the cash out rate is doubled for anyone who hasn't made at least $15,000 cashing out yet. And so with this doubled cash out rate, the earnings rate for creators is now much more reasonable. I won't get too deep into the math here, but it's like around the industry standard, I believe, for other platforms like Rec Room. That being said, the early creator matching bonus is ending at the end of this year. So essentially at the end of this year, for most creators, the cash out rate is going to be slashed by 50% to a really awful rate that is way below the industry standard. So people have been speculating for a while now if at the end of the year, Rec Room was going to like introduce a new bonus or something to raise the cash out rate again, because there's no way they'd leave us with that awful of a cash out rate. Okay, so that's all the background on cash out rates. What was the actual announcement at RecCon? The big announcement here is that at the start of next year, they are increasing the cash out rate for creators by 50%, which, hey, I mean, I'm sure you're all thinking right now, that sounds great. A 50% increase? That's huge. But I want you to really think about what they're doing here. Remember that at the end of this year, they're removing the early creator matching bonus, which will essentially slash most creators' cash out rates by half down to the original rate. And then what they've announced here is that at the start of the year, they're going to be increasing that base cash out rate by 50%. So if you look at all those numbers and do all the math, that means that all of the creators who have had the early creator matching bonus for the past 2 years are essentially getting their cash out rate slashed by 25%, which I guess is technically still less than the 50% that we thought it might be, but a 25% cut in revenue that we have absolutely no control over is still huge. And honestly, on top of that, I think it is really scummy the way Rec Room is phrasing this. They've announced this as some sort of huge 50% earnings increase for creators next year, when really, as I've just explained, we are losing money next year. Obviously, they've done this to frame it as a good thing and please investors and all that, but really, this sucks. This sucks really bad. So at last, for our final announcement at the keynote speech, Gribbly comes back on stage and talks about the new Rec Room original. The new game is going to be called My Little Monsters, and it's going to be like a roleplay focused game where you find out about the origin of these monsters or whatever. As with everything else, we don't have too much information on it right now besides what you're seeing right now, but apparently there's going to be a demo coming out sometime soon. This seems interesting, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking of this as a follow-up to Make It to Midnight, which they made as just like a really fun game in Rec Room Studio, and I'm guessing that this game will probably be more just focused on making money. I mean, again, we haven't seen too much yet, but the parallels to like Roblox Pet Simulator and stuff like that, I think are definitely there. Okay, and finally, finally, that is it for all of the RecCon stuff. There was so much stuff in that keynote speech I needed to talk about, with so much background to talk about. It's so hard. Now that we're finally done with that, let's get into talking about some smaller, nicer, simpler to discuss things that have been happening in Rec Room. Just last week, Rec Room updated to Unity 2021 from a version of Unity 2020 that they were on before. Ultimately, right now, this doesn't mean too much for most players. There was a time period last week where a bunch of rooms weren't accessible because they were busy updating from 2020 to 2021, but that's pretty much all done now. Rec Room Studio is also now using Unity 2021, but it's honestly, again, not a huge change. Probably the biggest thing is that PlayStation VR 2 actually supports Unity 2021 games while it didn't support 2020 games. So that was actually the reason that Rec Room wasn't ported to PSVR 2 yet, but now on the new Unity version, it technically could be. There's still no confirmation on whether that's actually happening or not though, so we'll just have to wait and see. And finally, recently in the Rec Center, there was a new pop-up shop with a whole bunch of new Teller lore S items or whatever. And as usual, these items are all absurdly expensive, like 20,000 tokens. If you actually do the math for how much it would cost to buy all of the tokens that this entire set together would cost, it would be over $100 to buy this whole set. And also, like usual, all over the walls is a bunch of random lore stuff that doesn't make any sense at all relating to S and Shadow Ink and the stupid friggin' Teller. I hate the Teller! Just kidding, guys. I would never say that about the Teller. I love the Teller, and I love even more his 20,000 token outfit items. I honestly don't have anything else to say about this pop-up shop that I haven't already said in my video complaining about the lore garbage, or the video about why everything in Rec Room is so expensive now. So if you want more of my thoughts on this kind of thing, check those videos out. I am just so over talking about this over and over again. Here's this week's weekly rotation of items. That's about everything I wanted to cover for the past 2 weeks of Rec Room news. I'm hoping to now continue doing Rec Room Roundup once every other week. We are so back. Subscribe, use code BVRR. Thanks for watching. See you next time.